Is there any area of this football team that you think they need to address that?
I would like to know what the solution is going into camp for the left tackle position.
He did say that, and that's funny you said that. He did tell Hoodie and I that I want to know who our 5 are before training camp.
Yeah, and, he's got a lot more inside information than the three of us do. For us to sit here and speculate on who it's going to be, I think we're ill-informed until we have a chance to watch whoever's out there on their feet for 5 or 10 days. And then how does the new offensive line coach start forming whomever he believes could be that starting left tackle into the piece next to Joe Tooney and down the line of scrimmage? But, obviously they have candidates, but I don't know if there's any candidate right there that, is a bona fide left tackle for guaranteed, because that's what we saw him play so much in college. Braxton obviously has the NFL experience, and Amagaji is the guy that you brought aboard here that had a lot of potential, and see if he can morph into the player that they expect out of him. And he's making a significant jump from the talent that he's faced up until this point, that the talent he'll face in the future. And then you asked about the defensive end position. I think they have guys here, but it's about the overall competitiveness of the position that includes 4 or 5 different guys. So if you take those 5 guys and say 4 of them have career years and then one of them is continuing to develop into the player you hope he can be, then I do think they have enough in place to help the defensive end position. And but ultimately it's going to be about production. And when you got J.J. McCarthy, who doesn't have a lot of experience, Jordan Love in Green Bay, and then Jared Goff in Detroit, it's not the easiest of quarterbacks to play against, but I do think that Dennis Allen and his staff should be able to not get exposed and be able to get pressure.
Tom, you've told us how, in your playing career, how tough Ditka would be, and talking about how difficult it is to make the football team. I think it's the first time I've seen a head coach say, here's the depth chart and no one's on it, to make the point that it's going to be hard to make the team. Have you seen that before? Ben Johnson says there's no depth chart.
I love that. And I heard that, Dennis Allen said the same thing to me when we had a chance to meet those guys up at Hallis Hall. And I love that. Yeah, you got to pencil in a bunch of guys who are going to be at their position when they break the first huddle of the year, but that guarantees them nothing. And I think the more that you can increase the competition on the practice field, ultimately how much better you're going to make the team. But you're also going to let some of these guys that have kind of fell into the comfort zone over the last couple of years that, like Ben said when he got here, be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think that helps the most and makes the team the most competitive.
In terms of who has the most pressure on them, that was a discussion topic on the Chicago Bears podcast with Pat the designer. And then I read a national article, and they said, who has the most pressure on them on each team? And for me, it's an easy answer. It's Caleb Williams. He's been given a greatly improved offensive line. He's got weapons up the wazoo. I think it's him. Pat, the designer, thought it was Ryan Poles. How would you answer that question that, it's not on Joe Tooney. He's going to go in and do what he does. Who has the most pressure on them this year?
I think Ben's got a lot of pressure on him. Because when you talk about a guy like Caleb Williams and how coveted he was last year, number 1 pick in the draft, and then he was in a system that was confusing and had multiple coaches over his short amount of time here. If you can get Ben Johnson and start developing Caleb into that system and that creativeness that we saw out of the Detroit offenses in the past, I think Ben has the opportunity to be the most important player in the room every day, even though he's never in cleats. So it is about what can we do for Caleb. But, Kap, I think, you got to, be fair about it because, again, the difficulty of mastering the terminology and knowing how it fits to everybody's assignment, and then you also call an alternate, an audible inside that same terminology, and you have to know how that play fits to the other 10 guys if you do make the change. So, Caleb's got an enormous amount of pressure on him. But, I think how do these coaches teach the system in the most efficient manner to Caleb and the rest of the guys.
The running game is something we talked a lot about, and so let's go through this, Kap, with Tom Thayer. So, yes, there are new offensive linemen, Tooney and Dolman and Jackson. Braxton Jones part of that mix. Hopefully we'll see some Ozzie Trapillo. Hopefully he develops. Same thing with Darnell Wright. So do we feel, Kap, that right now with new offensive linemen, that if you just broke camp and said we're good with Roschon Johnson and DeAndre Swift, that the running game will be better, especially short yardage? Because I still have PTSD of us not getting an inch or a yard in key spots on 3rd and 4th down.
Yeah, for me, Tom, and I heard Yerk talk about this in his own inimitable style, that he doesn't want to put assets into the running game of the guys that are out there, whether that's draft capital or significant dollars. I feel like the upgraded offensive line should make Roschon, DeAndre Swift, and Kyle Monangai better backs than we maybe thought they were previously.
Yeah, Ian Wheeler last year before he got hurt, he was kind of an exciting guy to watch at practice. He's got really good inside vision. He's got a lot of hop. He's got a lot of lateral right and left quickness. So, to put him in there inside this new offense, the one thing about the running game is, that's going to be up to the offensive line. You got to create some movement up front to allow these guys to get 4+ yards to carry. We're not unrealistically talking 50-yard touchdowns, 100 times during the course of the season. Let's just get first downs and 4 yards of carry. But one thing about that, too, is Ben talks about play action all the time. And I think the things that can benefit each other, the run game can benefit play action can benefit the running game. Because of when you have personnel matchups that you think you're in a favorable position and they start suspecting run, and then all of a sudden you drop a pass in the arms of the receiver while they're still on the run and they get significant yards after. I think this is an offense that is not going to be one-dimensional. One phase of the offense is going to have to play off the next and vice versa. So whether it's DeAndre and Roschon and that group of guys, or if they go out and find someone that piques their interest, I'm with Yerk, though. I don't want to sit there and spend any assets on that group, because I think with Ben's creativity that he can use the running backs he has along with the receivers he has and the tight ends he has.
If we struggle to get a yard this upcoming season, and you're going to be screaming and grunting with Jeff, I'm going to point that out, because you weren't great with that last year, like I wasn't great with that last year.
No, believe me, Jay Hood, that absolutely drives me out of my mind. That if it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, and you have 2 attempts at getting that 1 yard, and you actually end up losing yards in the end. Oh no, that frustrates the heck out of me. But I just think that a little bit more versatility within the line of scrimmage can really help you be successful in those kind of plays, where they don't always have to be, ramming your head into the line of scrimmage. Sometimes it can get people out of position where you can create a bigger play out of it. So, you have to be able to convert on 3rd and short and 4th and short if you want to be considered a successful offense.
I would tell you this. I fully expect, for the first time in my life, that I'm going to be sitting on my couch watching the game and going, oh, God, how'd that guy get open? Wow, awesome, nice play. Wow, great run. Man, play action. Look at that one, a 22-yard gain to the tight end. Like, I'm expecting to see stuff we've never watched offensively consistently.
I'm 100%. I'm sure there's plays in the Rolodex of Ben Johnson and the staff that they introduced during the course of a meeting. Hey, I know this guy is capable of doing this, or, we can, get a lot of play action influence to open up this guy here. And then, when Dan in Detroit used that 6th offensive lineman a lot, and that Dan Skipper, to me, if there's going to be a guy like Ozzie that's going to be able to be fed some live reps if he's not the actual starter, I think this is a great way, too, to be deceptive at the line of scrimmage to open up bigger plays on the perimeter. And so I think the creativeness from what we've already seen to what we're going to see in the future is going to be fun to watch.
Hey, you know what? I know we got to take care of Bears business, Cap,
Yeah.
Tommy. But, I mean, I'm very interested in seeing what the rest of the North looks like. Like, we just talked about J.J. McCarthy at the quarterback position. There was question marks of whether or not Aaron Rodgers would get to Minnesota. It looks like that's not going to be the case. It's McCarthy. Then with Jordan Love, we think he's a good quarterback. We think they have good offense, but not great yet. And then Detroit is Detroit. I just think that the North is fascinating. And once again, another year where I think that the North will be the best, most intriguing conference in the league or division in the league.
Yeah, you think when you're bringing Golden to Green Bay and the first time bringing in a receiver that high in a long time, and he does have a lot of speed, he's going to be interesting to see how he fits in the offense. But I think every offense across the board in our division is going to be decided on the performance of the offensive line. Because when you look at the new offensive linemen each team has brought in, you look at the quarterbacks they have, and whether it's an older guy like Goff or a brand new starting guy like J.J. McCarthy. And as high profile as the division is, with 3 playoff teams from last year and, quarterbacks from every team, it's still going to be about the guys up front. If the Bears defense is capable of stopping the opponent's offenses, then you're going to give yourself extra opportunities to be on the field, and hopefully the offense can capitalize on that. And
Thomas,
I guess we're going to see.
We're going to find out. It's going to be great theater. Have a wonderful rest of your day. How's your knee doing?
Oh, my knee is great. I appreciate all the work that everybody did to help me get to this point, and I'm ready to roll.
Rock and roll. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.